You're listening to Game On with Jackson Stuart.
Life is good, but you, player, deserve something great. Follow Game On with Jackson Stuart on social media and get the latest advice, tips, and life hacks. Follow at Game On with Jack on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Lastly, hook yourself up with news you can use. Interviews, posts, articles, and more on men's lifestyle, health, and success. See you at www.gameonwithjack.blog. Life's a game. Time to play. Time to win.
You're always searching for a better thing. Wanna replace me? I'm in a place that I've never been. It's worse than lonely. Cause someone tell me they see good in me. There's good in
It is true, the game requires planning. But the game is not only to be lived in the future. We've become such a society of what next that we have forgotten about what now. The true power to win is in the moment. Our guest this evening teaches that idea, and better yet, he lives it. Billy is an author, speaker, and Nowist, teaching people to become more aware of the gifts in the present moment. His hit book, The Nowist, is full of wisdom from his own journey. The inspiration and truth Billy Mandarino presents in his new book, The Nowist, is a life-changing creation. Billy dives deep into the essence of us all and breaks down present moment living in a very unique way. Billy is also our guest this evening.
Good people, sexy people, you've heard the bio, and I'm so excited and so happy to have this return guest. He knocked it out of the park last time he was here, and I got no doubt that he'll repeat it. Welcome to the show, the Nowist himself, Billy Mandarino. Billy, how you doing?
Oh, bless Jackson Stuart. Thank you for having me back. Your show has definitely got something fresh and something that's got its own energy. So I really appreciate you inviting me back because we had a phenomenal conversation last time, I remember.
Great.
And
Yeah,
we have a connection. It's all about connections. And when you can connect
Yeah.
with two people, wow, we serve people that are listening to this energy source.
You know, and since and we were doing a little pre-talk before the show, since Billy has been on, I find myself quoting him a lot, just about, telling coworkers and friends and family, and telling myself, reminding myself to just be present in the moment. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. I still plan, but it's just where I'm at in my headspace at the moment. So everything that Billy talks about and preaches and lectures about is good stuff. Billy, can you let the audience know first up where they can find you, what social media platforms, and by what name?
Thank you, Jackson. That's one of the key questions because I've been able to help lots of people and serve a lot of people. And the hub, the mothership, is billymandarino.com. It's spelled like the Mandarin orange, but with an O at the end. billymandarino.com. It links out to all the social, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of it. It's connected, and people are coming there in droves. I'm so grateful to know that this Nowist mission that I have, and the mission I have is to create this legion of Nowists. We call it the Nowist Nation. And we've been able to serve a lot of people. So yeah, billymandarino.com is where you can find me and all the teachings. And I'd love to be of service to you.
And Billy, where'd you grow up?
So I was raised in Spokane, Washington, but I was born in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay.
So I was raised in the Pacific Northwest, but I live in Santa Barbara, California now. So my heart is truly in California.
Now, guys, if you did not hear the first interview with Billy, I think it's going on like 2 years now, maybe. Go back and check it out because you'll hear the answers about how he got in the business and et cetera. And it's a great story. But I did want to jump into the meat of just Nowism. And so, Billy, as I mentioned before, I find myself since having you on just repeating a lot of Nowist kind of thinking. For people who are just now catching you on the show, can you explain what is Nowism? And
Well, to be a Nowist.
Nowist, I'm sorry.
Yes, to be a Nowist is
Yes.
somebody who lives in the present moment as a way of life, not a religion. It's a spiritual practice. It's a way of being in the world, disconnected to time, out of the past, future, just sickness that I guess most people in this world have, and living in outcome theories and outcome philosophies and living detached from those outcomes in the present moment. 90% of your day living in this way. 10%, yes, you have appointments, you have bills to pay, things to do, people to see. But I live and teach that ratio 90-10, 90% living in present moment awareness, 10% in the world. But as a great teacher, Jesus said, he says, I am in the world, but not of the world. And I believe so much in that philosophy. And when you learn to live that and you become a Nowist, everything in your life shifts emotionally, socially, spiritually, financially. You can serve and show up in this world in a much bigger and better way because you're not caught up in that illusion, as Einstein called it. Time is that illusion.
Now, so there's two opposite sides of being a Nowist. There's yesterday and there's tomorrow. What are the dangers of staying in one of those two? Because a great quote I heard once was, if you focus on yesterday, you get filled with guilt. You focus on tomorrow, you get filled with anxiety. So what is it that you have found personally, or just in coaching people? What's wrong with looking at yesterday? What's wrong with looking too much at tomorrow?
Well, there's no energy in the past, and there's really no energy. There's more anxiety in the future
Mm.
because we're anticipating and we're really not in the powerful state of our energy field, which exists out of time. Because I don't want to go too biblical on you because I study a lot of different spiritual talks and ways of life and teachers and masters, but there's this presence inside you, and it's called the I am presence. And if you want to go back and look in Exodus, Moses was at the burning bush and he was told the name of God, and God's name was I am that I am, the power of I am. It wasn't like, I was before this time and I happened after this time. The I am presence lives only in the present moment. And there's a lot of wonderful books and teachings written about the I am presence. So when you think about the past, when you're traumatized in something and you go back to that energy, it always fills you with stress because you get triggered. You live in that rear view mirror, as it were. And then you hope that it's different. So this hope is kind of a beggar. Hope is just wishing something's going to be different or anticipating something's going to be better. When you live in the present moment, that I am presence, I call it being a Nowist. There's so many great teachers that teach about present moment awareness in their own style and their own flavor. This word Nowist just came to me when the book came through me in 2017. And the idea of living in the present moment as a way of life. And in my book, The Nowist is truly a spiritual memoir. It's a book of how I found the present moment to be the most powerful part of my life. And I've been blessed to create avalanches of abundance in my life in all those areas I described earlier. But living out of past future mentality. Einstein, once again, to quote the great Einstein, he says, imagination, in circles, the imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge can take you from A to B, but imagination encircles the globe. And then I am. Think of it, the I am presence. I am. The letter I and the letter am is the first two letters of imagination. Imagination, I find it to be a clue that your imagination is one of the greatest gifts you've been given. So if you can live with your imagination detached from the outcome, that's why when you're thinking, to answer your question, in the past, you're worrying about yesterday and you're hoping that tomorrow's going to be better, there really is this feeling of lack of control. And I know we crave certainty as human beings in this physical time meat suit, if you will. We're in this physical being. We just want to control this time bound life that we're in. But the reality is, when you can get in the vertical, the divine infinite time, which has no past and future, that I am presence is where all of your power resides. But if you use the second part of that is using your imagination. When you can couple your imagination with the outcome that you want, but you do it in the present moment. There is no time there. There's just that I am present. So what I do when I want to manifest anything in my life, I use my imagination to focus on it and to feel it with all five of my senses. But I'm doing it in this now moment, in the present moment awareness of that feeling occurring, manifesting in this present moment. And that is like a magnet. That is a powerful point of attraction that you create through that presence, into that Nowist prowess, if you will, living in that energy. The past and the future have no sway on it. the true presence that you have, that I am presence, that present moment awareness that you have, that's the greatest gift you give, and along with your imagination, when you learn to control both of those and the daily function. That's why the 90-10 comes back in. You just live in this way and you study and you practice. Like, I know we talked earlier, Jackson, you're into karate or kung fu?
I did karate, taekwondo, and about 6 other different disciplines. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it teaches so much about, right, being present, being in the moment,
Oh,
having your energy
100%.
focused here now.
Every time I got hurt in Eastern or Western fighting, because I did boxing and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I got hurt, whoever was either the sensei or the trainer would stop me and go, "Where's your head at? What are you thinking about?" And it was always, you're embarrassed because first of all, you're laying there like sobbing or hurting some jacked up body part, but then you have to tell them, I was thinking about that meeting I had at 8:30, and it's like 6 o'clock at night or whatever. Or I was thinking about tomorrow I got to go and give that presentation, and they're like, right now. And there's a statement in martial arts: two minds, one body, or one mind and one body. You have to be in the moment. And so much what you said earlier, especially about the I am, you're right. The quote is not I was or I'm gonna be. It's I am. Like right now, I'm here. This is me. That's my name right now. And I really love that. And so much what you said. I mean, we're talking, you studied so many different teachers, but they all say the same great lesson. Law of attraction, law of assumption, Bob Proctor, Neville Goddard, all these great teachers are like, you only know your certainty until a point that you made earlier. You're right. People like certainty, but guys, you want to know what you can be certain about right now? Because if you're worried about what happens in 5 minutes, who knows what 5 minutes is like from now? But right now, you can be certain that right now you're here and wherever you are. So, uh, Billy, we talked earlier, and I did want to mention. I know a lot of people, and a dear friend of mine is people have anxiety, people have ADHD, and while we're not doctors talking, but a lot of this I feel, can be helped out with practices. How does being a Nowist help somebody who is filled with either anxiety or rapid thinking or both?
That's such an important question right now, Jackson, because the world, I call it infobesity. We're obese with information right now, right? We are overwhelmed.
I like that. That would now
Infobesity. But wouldn't you agree?
Oh, 100%. And it's almost like we're diabetic for information, because no matter how much we get, we want more. And what we've got, we can't use. It's like, your body has too much sugar, it doesn't know how to use it, but then you're out there chasing more Kit Kats. Don't get me wrong, people. I love Kit Kats.
I
There's
do.
a
I love Kit
balance
Kats too.
Yeah. So
But now that
why are
we're
we like that? Why is the world just a glutton for more knowledge that it isn't even using from the get go?
Well, I love quotes. Mark Twain says, "Comparison is the death of joy." So if
Ooh.
we're always in this comparison mentality, and in this world, I mean, post COVID, it seems like it's ramped up because I'm quite busy helping. I coach people one on one. I take them through a 12-week class called Becoming Your Infinite Self. And I recently wrapped up a session, and it's all one on one. I'm not doing groups. I really like to focus in my energy, my connected present moment awareness with the client. And we're through Zoom. The final session could be in person. But I just wrapped up with this person that's dealt with anxiety, overwhelm. Um, I'm like I said, I'm not a doctor. Not licensed. I don't have a degree in anything, but living as this present moment being who's brought through teachings that I believe are here to serve people in overwhelm, in anxiety, in stress, in outcome addictions. And working with this last client, she was someone who struggles from ADHD. She struggles from massive depression and overwhelm. And sometimes just getting up out of bed is just difficult to cope. But we went through this 12-week program, and the one thing after spending 12 weeks with her is the final, the 11th and 12th lesson are teaching a meditation that's in my book called the Nowist meditation. And it's a 1-minute meditation. There's 4 prayers. There's a breath. There's a physical arm motion that goes with it. There's a connected movement with it, but it takes 1 minute. And it was so interesting to take her through this. And this is someone that's severely, overwhelmed by the world, by the infobesity of this world, always thinking that there's something she's missing out on or something she has to do, never really honoring the present moment. But the great thing about a 12-week course is that you can learn to, condition yourself. That subconscious programming that happens in your mind can get through the brainstem, get to that prefrontal cortex into what's called the limbic brain, that deep programmable autonomic part of your body and your thinking that takes over. 95% of everything we do is with our subconscious mind. So we were conditioning her to get to this point. So when I finally reveal, to me, the most important part of this 12-week program is the Nowist meditation. So we went through it, and it was like this kind of cold bucket of water was poured on her, where she got it. She's like, oh, wow. So now, following up with her, about a month later, she does this meditation when she's feeling overwhelmed. And it's too much to go into to teach on this show, but if people want to learn more about it, they can, of course, go to billymandarino.com. I've got videos on it. I've got teaching on it on all the platforms. But this meditation, connected with her breath and using her imagination, once again, I'm hearkening back to the powerful imagination, the I am presence connected with your imagination. When you can do this meditation and you get out of this physical gravity of your problems and you use your breath, because your breath is one of the quickest ways to get you out of stress, because it brings you into awareness. But you couple your imagination with these prayers and your breath and this physical arm motion, this kind of core motion that we go through, it interrupts your nervous system to such a degree that it's hard for stress and ADHD thoughts and monkey swimming from each vine of your monkey mind back to the thought, which is on a different limb of that tree. It's really difficult to compete with presence, overwhelm, and anxiety, and your mind interrupts. It's like you scratch the record. It can't play the same. And so doing this repetitively, I do this now as meditation throughout the day. If I'm feeling I'm getting pulled in that, out of the 90% into the world, into physical time, I'll do this meditation while I'm driving, while I'm walking, while I'm thinking, while I'm working. There's so many ways that it's applicable to a stressed out person in physical time.
And you guys, I'm sure I've said it on the show before, but if you guys haven't heard it, what Billy said is 100% right. It is scientifically proven that focusing on your breathing, I believe it resets the hypothalamus, if I'm right. And that's a part of your brain that puts you into panic mode, like fight or flight, gotta get it. When you focus on your breathing, it's like you hit a reset switch on your brain to tell your brain, calm down. And your body, where your mind goes, your body follows. When your brain comes down, your body does also. So with something so simple, Billy, why is it people are not only unaware of the existence of being a Nowist, but why are they so resistant or hesitant to assume that such a simple practice could be so effective?
Well, we go back to, I love this quote from, I think it's Emerson. It says, habits rule the unreflecting herd. Habits rule the unreflecting herd. So that's a clue. We're ruled by our habits. And if you don't reflect, which means you don't have awareness, that 95% of your subconscious programming runs your life. So I think the vast majority of people, I don't know the percentage, but it's huge, of this world, 8 billion people on the planet are caught in that program. So they get up in the morning, they look at their phone, right? They go hit the Keurig pod, they drink their coffee, they turn on the shitty news that's giving them nothing but negativity and fear and doubt and worry, starting their day this way. Then they get in their car, they do the same thing, they just repeat it, it's wash, rinse, and repeat. And they just constantly are stuck in these patterns, these habitual ways of living that don't serve their highest self. They serve this physical being that you're in. And they're in the inverted point of the ratio. 90% of the day they're in stress. 10% they might breathe. They might, listen to a good podcast. They might meditate. They might do something, but their ratio is inverted. So that autonomic part of your nervous system, that automatic, that subconscious programming is programmed to live in stress and to live out of physical time and out of present moment awareness, and in physical time and out of divine time, which is this vertical axis that runs all the way up to the divine. And they're in this this crossification of the linear time, which is past and future. There's linear time, there's chronological time. They don't ever get in that vertical time, which is in this now moment. And when you live that way and you're programmed that way, it's so difficult to interrupt that pattern. That's why this 12-week program that I take people through, the teaching, just, you have to kind of become obsessed. You have to get to a point where, people eat food that makes them sick. Eventually you stop eating the food. Problem is, people eat this food that makes them sick because they don't know that it's making them sick, because they're numbed down by society. They're numbed down. They're drinking, they're eating, they're obsessing over a drug that's trying to interrupt their pattern. They just don't understand because they have no awareness that this is really taking them down this wrong road of their life.
I was reading about psychology and reading about some information about the brain, and I came across the term negativity bias, and it blew my mind because it makes perfect sense why we get so stuck in the pattern of anxious thinking and seeking out, doom scrolling, seeking out terrible news, because your brain is designed to keep itself safe, to keep you safe. And it worked way back when we were tribal, and I had to see if the tribe over the hill, if they ate the purple berries and they died, my brain focused to make sure that I didn't eat the purple berries and died. That worked 6,000, 10,000 years ago, but it doesn't work today because we don't have those same challenges, but our brain still looks for negativity. Let me stare at that car crash so I don't make the same mistake. Let me watch this horrible news so I can feel, informed, and you really don't. Let me doom scroll and really just feel like you feel terrible. You feel like shit afterwards. So in addition to going to BillyMandarino.com, you guys, you got to get on this Nowist tip. I mean, I have encountered it before I knew Billy. It was just, in different terminology, but it was the same core. It really does make a difference in how you function. So check him out. But Billy, can you give people two other things besides going on your website that they could take away right now that can help them get off the path of that, that monkey brain or the reptile brain thinking, and more into the Nowist methodology and ideology?
Okay, I'm going to give them two tricks and tips. I mean, a trick in the sense that you need to trick your brain, right? You need to trick that 95% of your brain, which you have to interrupt the pattern. So the one thing you can do, I mean, of course, is you need to first drink deeply of good books. You need to, I mean, my book is a good book, but there's thousands of books that teach you how to find the present moment as a way of life. You could just Google it. You could just say, hey, living in present moment. Teachers like Eckhart Tolle is a phenomenal teacher. He wrote the book, The Power of Now. I listen to that book all the time. He's kind of the OG, other than Jesus and Buddha and these wonderful, these ancient teachers. But he's more of a modern teacher that teaches a simple process of living in present moment. Eckhart Tolle, then The Power of Now, is a wonderful book. But just find these Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra. There's so many great teachers out there, Neville Goddard. But you need to start drinking deeply of good books. You need to make this kind of an obsession. If you're feeling overwhelmed and full of anxious thoughts, and you find yourself self-sabotaging yourself and living in all these feelings of stress and anxiety and overwhelm, you need to make it a priority to program your mind, like listen to podcasts while you're working, driving. You need to obsess a little bit about getting out of that old pattern that you're in, that you've already got that 95% program because your habits are bad. Here's the step one is that you need to drink deeply of good books that are going to serve your present moment awareness in a way of life so you can reprogram that 95. The other step I have for you is you need to get into gratitude in a whole new way, in a whole new level in your life. You've probably heard it, you've read it. You cannot think an anxious thought and also be grateful at the same time. You cannot be angry and stressed and be grateful at the same time. If you can find gratitude in a new way of life, in a new level of life, if you can double down on gratitude, you can wake up every morning and put your left hand on your heart and your right hand on top of your left hand. Once again, both your hands are covering your heart. And you can breathe in gratitude for this physical body that you have, and your heart, which is the most magnetic part of your entire being. which transmutes all of your stress and worry out if you can connect to it. You can just breathe in gratitude, take a deep breath before you get out of bed with your hands on your heart in gratitude. You will start interrupting those patterns and those negative patterns that you've had starting your day with. But gratitude is the best multiplier. It's been said. Gratitude is the best multiplier because gratitude is changes your point of attraction, changes your present moment. And if you can start habitually living grateful, and when you feel overwhelmed, what's good about this? How can I find something good in this? How can I be grateful for something in this challenge? You can start to change your life. So those drink deeply of good books, step one, and then be grateful as a new way of life and a new habit in your life.
Those are amazing points. And Wayne Dyer, I think I read all his books, and they were just like mind blowing. And I read a little bit of Eckhart Tolle, and I remember telling this to somebody, and they were like, "Well, I don't want to read that woo woo stuff, and people make fun of me." And I said, "Well, don't read it in front of people."
That's easy fix right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
just do it in privacy.
get the book and read it enough so you can get to the point where you're comfortable and you don't care what people think. And second, and in terms of gratitude, which I couldn't agree with that more, sometimes we like to overcomplicate things. And I think that's our way of not having to change. Well, I don't have time to write down 100 things I'm grateful for every day. Nobody said write 100 things. Like when I wake up, I try and write 6 things I'm grateful for. It takes me all of like maybe a minute because 4 of them are like repetitive. My loved ones, my health, another day, God, stuff like that. And then maybe 2 or 3 are specific to something the day before. But like, guys, if you can write down 3 things you're grateful for every day for 45 to 60 days, if you miss a day, oh well, just the next day do it, or do it later on that day when you remember. It becomes such a habit that you'll do it without even thinking about it. I mean, all of a sudden you look, you got the pen and paper in your hand, and you're like, oh crap, I'm ready to do my gratitude for the day. But it makes a huge difference. And think of it this way, guys, when people tell you thank you, you want to do more things for them. So why would life be any different? The more you
It's so
appreciate,
true.
the more you get, the more you give, so on and so forth. Billy, what are you working on right now? What's currently on the Billy Mandarino project list?
You know what's overwhelming me with such abundance of artistic expression and creation and inspiration is, the book came through me in 2017. I spent 9 months at my kitchen table downloading this book, bringing this book into awareness. Because once again, I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree in anything but kind of my life's inspiration and the works that come through that inspiration. But I spent, 9 months bringing this book into the world. And then 2018, 19 toured the world, bringing this book to talks and to people and just giving the book away to a lot of people, selling the book, making an audio book. It's on Audible, and just doing all the deep work. And then I've done 2 live events. Well, my band and I wrote a entire in studio record around the book. And then we created 8 music videos. We performed this, I call it the Nowist Experience Live. We did 2021, 2022. We did big live events in a hotel and a ballroom. We global streamed it around the world. And I thought, okay, I finished that. And I was like, what's next? Am I doing a 3rd live event? Because it takes about a year to produce these and they're rather expensive. And I thought, okay, what is it? I went to this 3-month kind of lull where I just had to be quiet. I had to be patient because nothing was coming through. And then all of a sudden, we went through this framework that in our last Nowist Experience Live called emergence trauma. I realized, I read this stat that I think it's, a friend of mine who's a very talented medium and a very talented spiritual teacher. The stat says that 61% of all men and 51% of all women on the planet have an unresolved childhood trauma. And she laughs, says, yeah, virtually everybody has an unresolved childhood trauma. This stat was from the American Psychological Association. So I took it as, they did the deep work. And I said, you know what, we just came through this emergent trauma framework. We serve so many people with this great framework that we created. And I thought, how do I serve more people? I need to get on a different screen. I mean, we have the podcast. I'm on your podcast. I've been on a lot of podcasts. I've got online teaching. I've got online courses, but I need to get on the bigger screen. I said, I need to get on the big screen. So we're in the process. We're 1 year into just about completing the screenplay for a feature-length film.
Awesome.
And the book leads into it a little bit, but it's a fictional story about this family that comes out of trauma, emergence trauma, we call it. There's a psychological thriller. There's a serial killer involved. It's an intense story. But if I can get people in a dark room for 2 hours, we become more entrained in the thinking. Because when you're in a movie theater, well, you just kind of get in this lower. It's called a theta, a delta brainwave frequencies, lower brainwave frequencies where you get programmable, and you can learn and you can be entertained and inspired. So I'm now so inspired about getting on this big screen and teaching people how to get out of trauma, because majority of people in this world have a trauma they don't even know they have, because in psychology it's called disassociation. They get triggered and all of a sudden they do all these things and like sabotage relationships. They go into addiction habits and patterns, and you don't even know why you're doing it. You become obsessed about something, and it ruins your life, and it can take you out of your presence quicker than anything. Is when you don't understand that this thing inside me, it's like this whisper in your background. You don't even know who it is. This voice is just hearkening back to drag you back in the past. So I'm inspired about this movie. The movie's called For Now, and it's just teaching people through an intense psychological thriller how to emerge from trauma and then what to do once you're out of that trauma.
I'm excited. That's going to be cool. Definitely, as that pops out, you guys, we'll make sure we keep that information available for the audience. Billy, one of my favorite questions to ask a guest, in keeping with the theme of sexiness, what is the sexiest thing about Billy Mandarino?
You know what I think is sexy about human beings in general is authenticity. I think back to my life. I mean, I'm an artist, I'm a creator, blessed to have the ability to bring my art through me. Musically, inspiration comes through me in all kinds of ways. Now it's going to come on the big screen into the form of this movie. But I think of the greatest, most authentic artist that ever walked the blue planet, Prince. There has never been an artist more authentic. You could throw Leonardo, Da Vinci, and you could throw Monet, Van Gogh, all the great artists of all these different, modalities. There's never been a more prolific, authentic artist than Prince. So I think one of the sexiest things in the world is authenticity. When you meet a person that's truly themselves and you can sense it. So if we can all get back into our authentic self, and that's kind of what being a Nowist is. That's what that I am presence is. Go back to the truth of who you are, the kernel, the truth, the light, the spark, and be your authentic self. Man, your whole life is going to change if you learn to be the highest version of your authentic self. Like Prince was just a role model for me in that.
I mean, I don't think you can say the word authentic and not include Prince. I mean, he was just a different vibe level kind of guy, and his creative works speak for themselves. Just his fashion, his style, everything about the guy. And by all accounts, Prince did live 100% in the moment, and I feel like it really showed.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
he was interviewed, Jackson. Sorry to interrupt you, brother, but he said, and I have this on my phone when I saw it. In 1999, he was interviewed with Larry King, and he says he talked about Larry was trying to drag the past out of him and the ideas for the future. He says, you know what? I just live in the moment because I think it makes you young. And that's where he performs from, is the moment. And I've seen him live 3 times. And there's never been a more present performer ever, like I said, in any modality, any medium of artistic expression that could embody present moment awareness through an artistic means of music and performance that like Prince. So go back, watch Prince and listen to his music. He's got a lot to teach us still, even in his angelic form.
And one of the methods that I find that helped me to recenter myself in the moment, music. And of all music forms, jazz really puts me in the moment, because if you see jazz live, you see it, you listen to it get played. You could have the same jazz piece played by the same band 3 different ways, and it's going to sound a little bit different every time. And you got to be present to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that, and actually not just music, but anytime you really give into your senses. And I know that we talk a lot about energy. We talk about energy driving this physical vehicle. But next time you take a bite of really good food and you actually enjoy it, that puts you in the moment. If you, have a sip of whatever, really good wine or great Diet Coke, whatever, if you can just block everything out and let that one sense really work, it almost feels like you've never had a tongue before or never had ears before or eyes before. And it's because we're so busy. What happened yesterday? What's tomorrow? What's yesterday? What's tomorrow? But if you can stop and just enjoy the gifts of just being.
Amen, brother.
I mean, I really, once you encounter it, you have to try to not walk away changed. Like, you got to make an effort to be the same numbskull you were before. Or something simple, like, hey, next time you pick up, if you got kids or you got kids in the family, next time you pick up a baby and just be in the moment holding that brand new, fresh life. If you can't let that change you, then something's wrong with you and you're choosing to stay wrong, because nothing centers you like picking up a baby, a creature that has no cares in the world, or a puppy or a dog, whatever, cat, that close. And I feel like that close to the other side of creation. Like, you just got here. You have not been layered with the bullshit, and you've not accepted the bullshit.
Now you're talking. That is the whole truth. The innocence.
Animals are like, look, feed me, I'll sit on your lap all day and we're good. Like,
isn't that crazy? Like, we have a little dog, and every time I come home, she is so excited to see me, like she's never ever seen me before.
It's the first time you walked in the door, right?
It's they're some of our greatest teachers. I mean, yes. Kids, like little kids, they don't care what people think about them. They're like in the sandbox. They are Batman. They are Wonder Woman. They don't even care who's we make fun of them, because they don't even think about that. They truly live in the moment. So, kids are my teachers. Dogs are our teachers. There's so much you can learn from present moment awareness just by observing little children, animals, especially dogs. I mean, what does dog spell backwards anyway, but God? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many little winks from the universe and synchronicities that you could pick up on. You just have to have the eyes of awareness to see them. But I love that you see them, you're aware, and I'm praying that your listeners will pick up some of these tips and start to change their life and walk towards presence and away from the past and get out of that rear view mirror, that a lot of people are living their life in, expecting to drive forward, looking in a rear view mirror. You're going to crash every time.
Every time. We always like to wrap up the show with some rapid fire questions. Billy, I know you're ready, so I'm going to hit you real quick.
Bring it.
If you had to be a Disney character, which one would you be?
Ooh, God, rapid fire. Buzz Lightyear.
What animal would you be in another life?
Definitely a dog.
Name the first word that comes to your mind.
Presents.
What's your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Pineapple.
See, I'm with you, man. I'm a convert. First time they put Hawaiian pizza in front of me, I was like, this is messed up.
But it's
favorite. So good. What's the best thing you ever eaten in a restaurant?
Ooh, that would be a meal I had in Mykonos, which was orzo and this wonderful beef stew.
What is one chore you absolutely despise doing?
Man, I hate mowing the grass.
And last but not least, and one of my favorite questions, who inspires you?
God, I mean, I got to go straight up to the source of it all. I live in, Christ consciousness, living in oneness, living in God and God's awareness. That's it. Learn to think like God thinks. That's all I'm trying to do.
Hey guys, there you go. You've got you guys just had a kick-ass interview with the enlightened, the man in the moment himself, Billy Mandarino. Billy, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out, for working these crazy schedules with me, and then finding time to come back to the show. I really do appreciate it.
Honored, Jackson. Truly, thank you, and peace to you, brother, for all you bring into this world, all the light you bring into the world. Thank you so much for you.
Hey, I appreciate it. And Billy, we'll be in touch soon. We'll talk.
Peace to you.